Is it opening up for you?
Talk
For some reason, our
Radio.
chat's not opening up. There it goes. Okay. You got the music playing. There's the music on the other side of the screen.
When a silent majority allows their nation to lose its common sense, that nation is lost, and you are allowing them to take your country away from you. Is it common sense to adore at the altar of multiculturalism? Read your world
There we
history.
go.
Not one nation has survived as a multiculture. It's the uniculture that is your strength. One country, one culture, one language. Is it common sense that 84% of the people want to make English the official language of America, but your majority political party espouses insanity, ignores the people, and says no? Is it common sense that 53 countries, mostly in Africa, have declared English to be their national language, and the party who declares we will unite you says press 2 for Spanish? Is it common sense to adopt your new national religion of diversity when the very word means disunity? We founded a country on similarities, not diversities. One country, one culture, one language. You cry out for unity, but is it common sense to continue to identify yourselves by your ethnicities and not your nationalism?
All right, everybody, welcome to another show here. Chad, the floor is yours. Go ahead. You're the host of the Tonight Show. Go ahead. There's people listening on the internet, by the way.
What's going on tonight, guys? I just want to introduce myself. My name is Chad, and I'm on with the co-host, Joe Gibson, and Adam Finn here tonight. And hopefully this new segment really opens up people's eyes. Look forward to hearing from everybody. And the topic of discussion is going to be restoring the Republic. What can we do? How can we fix it? If you've got something to offer, you got a solution or something to say, call in at 657-383-0616.
There you go. All right, Adam, go ahead, brother. Go ahead. I know you're the co-host with us tonight. Anything you want to talk about? I didn't advertise the show too much because I wanted to play this out to see, make sure you guys knew how to work the studio. But obviously, you can tell we got some jerks inside the chat room already, and you got some viewers in the chat room also. And we got a bunch of people listening on my social media platform, which is Lincolnton. I got about 15 people listening there. So that's Lincolnton. I didn't advertise it on Twitter or Facebook too much because I didn't, this was our test run. But Adam, go ahead, brother.
Glad to be on here, able to talk about these types of things. Obviously, we've got a serious crisis being perpetuated by our media and their government lackeys are decided that we need to have this emergency and shut down our entire economy. And it really points to how in this nation we live in that we seem to now be owned by what used to be our servants. Restoring the republic would be to restore the original intent of what the founders wanted, which would have been government owned by and for the people.
Adam, your background. Adam, your telephone sounds absolutely terrible. Terrible. Chad sounded good for once. For once, Chad sounded perfect, and this time Adam just sounds terrible. There's are you on a headset? I think that's the problem, really.
Well, I had to do something a little different today, and it's probably not going to work out.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in a tunnel. Yeah, it sounds terrible. It sounds like you're in a tunnel, actually. How do I sound? Do I sound pretty good? Because this is important. We got to make sure we all sound very, very good, Yeah.
Yours
Chad
sounds
sounded
good.
pretty good.
Adam's in a tunnel.
Yeah. Adams is terrible. And for everyone that's listening via the internet right now, via the chat room, I see a lot of viewers out there already popping up here. We're doing something different here, turning over the show to two new hosts, Chad and Adam, and they're going to be doing a show called Restoring the Republic. Okay? Because, look, we're at that point right now where the Republic is being restored, so what are we going to do with that Republic once we got it back? What are we going to do with it? And that's the conversation here tonight, folks. So anyone who wants to join in, and anybody with background noise, you cannot have any background noise at all. That is very, very important, especially when you have multiple hosts. Otherwise it just totally destroys the show. Press the number 1, 657-383-0616. Chad and Adam are taking over the show, Restoring Our Republic. Go ahead, Chad. Go ahead and talk.
Okay, so right now we're in a really uncertain time in our nation, and a lot of people are looking for answers. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people are wondering what's going to happen, tomorrow and the next day. And we have to look, at what's happening with our republic right now. We're seeing some changes that maybe some people don't notice, but some people have. We're coming up on a time where, we just had a bill that even though it didn't pass part of that digital currency, we actually had a piece of that legislation mentioned digital currency. So we have to stop and think, when is, things like that going to happen? What's next, okay? When will they actually pass legislation that will enact digital currency? What is the future going to hold? How can we restore our republic when the changes that are being made are further damaging our republic? So what we want to do
let's talk about Chad. Chad, let me interrupt you. Chad, you're the host of the podcast, but I'm kind of like the co-host here today. Let me interrupt you. All right, you talked about currency. Currency is a very important aspect of our republic or a part of our country. Now, if they're going to change the currency, does anyone have any idea how they're going to change the currency out there? What are they going to change it to? Is it going to be a digital currency? Is it going to be a gold-backed currency? Or if anyone doesn't know, what would they recommend for a currency in our new republic here, which we're hoping we're going to have? And if anyone has any bartering solutions and what we're going to have. And remember, everybody, the background noise, you cannot breathe into your phone. You cannot breathe into your headset at all, because there are a lot of people now listening to the podcast, and they will hang up because they don't want to hear that. All right, so, Chad, what can you tell me, restoring our republic? Okay, we have it right here at our fingertips. Bartering system. What type of bartering system do you suggest that we should have in our republic today?
Well, that's hard to say. A lot of people are using this Bitcoin now. Is that going to be the new currency? What are we going to have? Because it's even hard for me to say. I've been so used to the dollar that I don't even know if we're prepared for any kind of new currency. We're not prepared. So what I'm thinking is it is going to go digital. That it will go digital. It will be administered from the reserve. The privatized banking system will probably disappear. That's my guess. As we will see a reduction in privatized banking.
Okay.
What do you think,
right.
Joe?
Well, how about this? How about this? What does the Constitution say? If we're restoring our republic and we're restoring our original Constitution and we're restoring a lawful de jure form of government, the Constitution says gold, right? Gold and silver.
Gold,
what does
absolutely.
the Bible say? Weights and measures. Weights and measures. You can't adjust.
Absolutely, yes.
You cannot adjust gold and silver. Gold weight, an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold. You can't play with it, manipulate it, recreate it. You can't put it on a printing press. it is what it is. It's an honest form of trade. How does that work, a gold-backed currency? Does anyone have any solutions? Well, I wanted to ask a question to you, but go ahead.
Well, okay, that's where I'm. I was getting ready to go to that question as well. Is there enough gold to do that with?
Well, sure. I'm sure. I would imagine so. I'm not sure. I remember Ronald Reagan. He'd appointed the Grace Commission in the 80s to find out if there was any gold in Fort Knox, and from what I heard, there's none in there. But is there enough gold in the world to do that? How does that work? A gold-backed currency, a gold-backed. I wasn't around during the days when during my great grandparents when they were around, and we had the. I remember the dollar bills used to say redeemable in silver. The $1 bill. Remember that? I have them here, but I don't know how that works. If anyone's got any answers to that, that'd be great. How does how is this gold-backed currency going to work? How's the bond market going to work? How, in the future here? Because we have to really understand something here. We have right now, a future here at our fingertips here. The republic is right here for our taking. The republic is here right in our fingertips. We can restore our country, what we've always been wanting for so long, and it's right here. And all we have to do is wake up and grab it, And Chad, I think you got some callers here, so it's up to you if you want to take some callers.
All right. Caller 765, unmuting.
No, they have to press 1. They got to press 1 first. But if they press 1, you'll see the blue question mark next to their phone number. Okay, and you unmute them.
Okay, so this is definitely new.
Yeah. Right. You don't want to unmute. Some people just want to call in and listen.
Gotcha. Well, if there is anybody on, okay, here we go.
612, I think there. Yep.
612, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Sorry. I was just going to ask you, I just got the tail end of what you were saying there. What were you talking about as far as Republicans, or I just caught the last bit there?
Well, it wasn't Republicans. It was restoring our republic, and we were asking what type of bartering system should we have our republic is being restored right now as we speak, and what type of bartering system would the people feel more comfortable in having? Obviously, we had the Federal Reserve controlling our bartering system, in which they print money out of thin air, and they can control the inflation, deflation, the bursts and bubbles, and everything else. And they manipulated our currency all these years and had us as slaves. So what type of bartering system would the people enjoy?
Well, I think, first of all, I think we'd all agree, let's hope that it doesn't come to that, because that would be a disastrous situation for our country if it did. Because that would essentially say that our current economic system as we know it would have completely collapsed for us to even get to that point, right?
Well, just in case you don't know, our current economic system it has collapsed, and it's over. Wall Street has collapsed, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we can't talk about right now. But yes, it has collapsed. Donald Trump has basically repaired everything right before our very eyes without us knowing.
Right. By collapse, I mean, are you saying that our current system is basically gone and what we're going to replace it with a bartering system?
I didn't. Chad, did you hear what he had to say? I didn't hear him.
No, I'm saying, are you saying our current economic system as we know it is gone and we're going to have to replace it with a bartering system, like we're just trading stuff for stuff? Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is that the Federal Reserve right now is finished. The Federal Reserve is done. Okay?
Yeah.
No,
and right now we're still using dollars.
Yeah, but the whole world has their debt in U.S. dollars. Essentially, how holding them captive.
The whole world has debt in U.S. dollars. That's what you're saying right now?
Yeah. They have debt in U.S. dollars, and most of their cash reserves are in U.S. dollars.
Okay, that's an interesting opinion. Are you sure of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of why the U.S. dollar has the value it has. Because if it had not been the case, then the U.S. dollar, we would have seen hyperinflation a long time ago.
But the value of the U.S. dollar has dropped.
Well, hang on. Are you familiar with
the drop? Would have been much more significant had it not been for the fact that it's essentially a world currency that people use to trade and have reserves in.
All right, sir. Are you familiar with the insolvency of the central banking or the Federal Reserve? Are you familiar with receivership?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well then you would understand right now that what's happening with the stock market. You would understand that the Russian government has totally stepped down. Canada has chased there about 6 months ago, forgave all mortgages, all loans. I believe this happened in Europe also. We just saw what happened with this last bill that just was passed here, where everyone's going to get a check and everybody's going to be happy. We see what's going on with China. We saw what happened with India, the deal that was made with India for trade. So you would say right now that the global markets across the globe right now are in a stable place. You're saying that everyone's relying on the Federal Reserve to fix everything, and that the Federal Reserve is still stable and still in total control right now of the bond market and the money market.
I'm talking about the U.S. dollar itself. I'm saying that the fact that the U.S. dollar has any value and hasn't already had major inflation, which could have happened years ago, by the way, it's not just now, has been due to the fact that most countries around the world still use the U.S. dollar, and most cash reserves around the world for most nations is in U.S. dollars. I mean, had that not been the case, we would have had inflation 10, 15, 20 years ago that would have been massive. But the only reason that hasn't happened is just for that reason alone. I mean, our national debt is what, 24 trillion? 25 trillion almost now?
Yeah, 24 yeah. So if it was 24 trillion, if you taxed every single person on the planet 100%, that debt still could not be paid off. You realize that?
Exactly. Yeah, and combine that with the low interest rates the Fed has had for years now, we were overdue for hyperinflation for a long time. And so the only reason that hasn't happened is just due to the fact that the U.S. dollar is essentially a major world currency that is used for most of the trade around the world, and most of the global supply chains use U.S. dollars. That's the only reason. If that hadn't been the case, we would have been screwed a long time ago. That's my point. That's the only reason why, despite this current situation, I think it will still remain solid. I don't think the U.S. dollar is going to have a total, hyperinflation at all, because all the markets are connected to ours. If they were separate from ours or are operating independent from us, then it'd be one thing, but they're not. They're dependent on us. So because of that, we'll be okay. And we still got the best economy in the world. There's no economy on the planet that it compares to the U.S. economy. Even the Chinese. It doesn't even come close. So that by itself is what gives us hope for the future.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting take on that. Is there anyone on the phone line here who would like to speak to this and maybe explain? Maybe I'm not qualified here to do that, but maybe if someone would like to explain maybe a little bit of what's going on in the bond market and how the Federal Reserve right now technically is really not in, I guess you could say, the stable form that once was, in the control and what is going on, without tipping the hat or tipping the iceberg where, that things can't be revealed at this time. I would really appreciate it if someone would press 1. If there's my friend there from California, I don't know, I think he's out here, he's listening via Twitter, I think, now. The Federal Reserve, it's hard for me to explain it and go into the everything, the full aspect and scope of everything. But right now, all I can tell you is that in the next few weeks, you're going to see changes that are really going to blow your mind, that you're going to see where this conversation was relevant to what you're going to see in the future. And you're going to see that, I don't know how to word it, because obviously you're not, I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm not saying you're wrong or you're ignorant or dumb. I'm just saying that you don't fully understand what's really going on out there behind the scenes and in the banking system and in the, what's going on with the deep state and what's going on behind the scenes, basically. I just don't think you're aware of that. And or understand what's happening.
I'll be the first to acknowledge if I'm wrong. I'm just going off of what I do know. If there's something you can tell me to let me know otherwise, I'm open to it. I'm not
Sure,
arguing as if to say I'm definitively right. I'm just giving my little 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you being honest and respectful. I don't know really how to word it from a perspective of someone like yourself. That's like I said, and that where I know what's going on, and it's hard for me to word it or paraphrase it without letting the cat out of the bag, I guess you could say, or saying something that I probably shouldn't say. However, the thing, like I said, I would look for something in the future here where that have some money set aside. Have a little bit of be prepared, because what's happening right now is there's a bigger picture going on right now, and obviously you could tell that with the stock market, with this coronavirus, and certain individuals moving around the globe, and what's happening, and certain financial institutions and what they're doing, and people, CEOs and whatnot. So, I would say I would be very, very awake on what's happening and be prepared for what's going to happen in the next few weeks, from what I could tell and from what I could see. Now, unless someone else, I don't know who's got background noise. I don't know what's going on. I don't think it's the caller, but it's very disrupting. I'm trying to explain money mechanics, and the dollar, and I don't know, but it's hard. It's very distracting. Everyone, press number 1 if you want to get on here. Maybe there's someone else, like I said, who would like to be in here and explain this a little bit more, how the bond market works, or how the fractional reserve banking system works, how the central banks have control over the system, and how they don't have control anymore over the system, and what Donald Trump really is trying to do. That would be great. I think it would be very educational for a lot of people that are on the phone line here tonight. But I know I had a guy out there in California that he's a whiz at this stuff. He can explain the banking system in like a nutshell within 10 minutes. But he has not called in.
In light of what just from for everything you get, how do you see, for example, the next year playing out? Like this time a year from now, how do you see things in the country?
How do I see things? Oh, a year from now? How I hope and see things is this. I hope that we have restored our republic. I hope and pray that the people out there that have been taking advantage of the people around, not just America, but around the world, that have created wars and funded both sides of each war, that have committed murders, that have taken advantage of other governments. We can go to Benghazi, for instance. I'd like to see those crimes exposed, and many other crimes. We can go all the way back to the bombing in Beirut, or Lebanon, excuse me. I would like to see next year at this time our republic fully restored, us having a de jure form of government, and the real criminals. I'm not talking about the O.J. Simpsons. I'm not talking about, those types of people. I'm talking about the real criminals that have been within the global elite system, the Rothschilds, the J.P. Morgans, those individuals. I would like to see them having been arrested, brought to trial, and hopefully convicted. And I would like to see us, a new kingdom, a new age, brought in on planet Earth and America and every other country, enjoying freedom and enjoying their own individual sovereignty without other countries being involved, or other, I guess you could say, evil people controlling what we call the deep state, controlling other governments and policy and whatnot. That's what I'd like to see, and I hope and pray that does happen.
So who's going to bring those people to justice? Because you essentially would be depending on the current government to do that, right?
I would believe, right now, from what I gather and what I understand, Donald Trump is leading the way. He is draining the swamp.
Come on, now you don't really believe that, do you?
I
mean, how much power does he really have?
I have faith. I have faith that that's what's happening. Do I believe it? I guess I can't believe a lot of things until it happens, but I have faith that it's going to happen, so I want to believe it to be true.
You remember when?
Wouldn't you want to see it? Wouldn't you want to see that happen?
No, I would love it, but being realistic, I don't think Donald Trump would be the one to do it, just off the fact that, you remember about a year ago when he gave that speech at Helsinki with him, and he called into question the American, intelligence agencies and what they were saying about things, and the next, it was like 48 hours later, once he gets back to the States, he had to issue an apology. Why do you think they did that? You don't think they got to him and probably somebody threatened his life? I mean, I don't think
that's an interesting question. That's interesting.
You know,
I'll give you that. Kudos to you for bringing that up. I'm not too familiar with that, but I did hear about that. I would say you're very knowledgeable individual and been paying attention. I don't have an answer for you on that, but I would say that was very interesting. I'll look into that. But like I said, is Donald Trump perfect? I don't think there's anybody perfect out there. That's unless Jesus Christ has returned to and where I don't think anyone's out there perfect. Well, everyone's going to find fault somewhere down the line with someone. But the question of it is, what president do you know of since JFK maybe that has done more for the republic? I mean, I'm just going to say right now, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. What president do you know of by record? Ronald Reagan maybe came close, right? George Bush,
Absolutely.
Obama, the other George Bush, Nixon, Ford, Carter.
I'd probably say Reagan was the last one, and then the one who called it out was obviously Eisenhower. But and I'm not saying Trump doesn't have the right motives. I'm saying if Trump had the power to do it, I 100% agree with you, he would do it. But I think Trump can only do but so much within the parameters that they allow him to operate. Right? There's a point that if he went out of that parameter, they'd kill him. There's obviously people that run the government behind the scenes that have much more power than he does. Right? The president is only a figurehead. And this goes back to Eisenhower when we talked about the military-industrial complex that would rise up and take power. And we saw what happened with Reagan. Why do you think Reagan got shot? That was clearly a warning to him to not go outside of his scope, because he was probably the most powerful president in our history. I mean, the man won a landslide where he won 49 out of 50 states. You talk about having a mandate and power, that's more power than any president in our history. So, all I'm saying is I wish that would happen, but I just think we got to be more realistic and, not have too high of expectations, realizing that these guys only can do but so much.
Okay, well, can you explain what would you like to see Donald Trump do? For instance, he put that Attorney General William Barr announced Thursday that announced the indictment of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Oh God. Nicolas Maduro and the top officials for crimes related to drug trafficking. So what do you think about that? As for instance, that's just one of the criminals out there that should be brought to justice.
Yeah, I'm not bashing Trump. I mean, I like Trump. I voted for him, and I'll vote for him again. But I'm just saying that the idea that he's going to be the guy that's going to bring the Rothschilds to justice, that's too much. I mean, at this point, I'm just hoping William Barr actually goes after the people in the FBI that were part of the whole Russian collusion nonsense that was conducted back in 2016. I just want to see them do that. Before we talk about the people behind the scenes that are controlling the world, let's see if they can bring to justice the people in the FBI and the CIA. You know what I mean? Let's just take one step at a time here.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Chad, do you have a question for this individual? I mean, before we do, there was a statement released that I posted on my Facebook actually that stated from an inside source, and we were allowed to post this out in the open. I don't know if you follow my Facebook page, but it was posted along social media, and it was a statement stating exactly what is being planned and what needs to happen to restore our republic. Chad, before I pull that up, would you like to ask this gentleman any questions, or do we have any other callers that may want to interact, maybe be able to answer his questions or interject here?
I just want to ask the caller. Okay, you haven't heard of a lot of things going on around the world, have you, as far as what's happened in Italy? And with the coronavirus and the fact that they have pretty much been throwing their money out because it's useless, and the talk of the euro itself becoming pretty much obsolete here in the future. Things like Brexit and stuff causing an upset. Where do you see the world stage impacting the United States in the future when it comes to the euro declining and things of that nature, and ultimately a lot of countries jumping out of the European Union. Do you see any future in that?
Oh yeah, and I mean I've been following the European politics really closely. I have family in Europe, so I supported the Brexit movement, and I want the European Union to go away and collapse. But the euro and all that was already on the decline before this coronavirus hit. Versus the U.S. economy that was strong prior to this virus coming in. Would you acknowledge that? I mean, we had our economy was doing great. Every metric you can look at: labor force participation rate, unemployment, year-to-year average wage growth, the GDP growth, the stock market was doing fantastic. And that's part of the reasons why I like Trump so much, is that his policies have been great for the economy. That's why my mindset is that once this virus passes, I expect the U.S. economy to bounce back. I don't see why it shouldn't or why it couldn't. Versus the European markets, which were already going down prior to any of this happening.
Okay, that was interesting. This statement right here, I don't know if you saw this. It says, "My fellow Americans, over the course of the next several days, you will undoubtedly realize that we are taking back our great country, the land of the free, from the evil tyrants that wish to do us harm and destroy the last remaining refuge of shining light." The President of the United States order, we have initiated certain fail-safes that shall safeguard the public from the primary fallout, which is slated to occur. Upon the arrest announcement of Mr. Podesta, I think I pronounced that right. I'm bad with pronunciations. Actionable confirmation to the public of what is occurring, we will then be revealed and will not be openly accepted. Public riots are being organized in serious numbers in an effort to prevent the arrest and capture of more senior public officials. On the President of the United States order, a state of temporary military control will be actions and special ops carried out. False leaks have been made to retain several within the confines of the United States to prevent extradition and special operator necessity. Rest assured, the safety and well-being of every man, woman, and child in this country is being exhausted in full. However, the atmosphere within the country will unfortunately be divided, as so many have fallen for the corrupt and evil narrative that has long been broadcast. We will be initiating the emergency broadcast system, EMS, during this time in an effort to provide a direct message, avoiding the fake news, and to all citizens. And it goes on and on and on with a special message, okay? And that message there was posted on a lot of social media platforms out there. This is the beginning, as it stated, of cleaning up the nonsense that we have been facing for quite some time now. And I believe that Donald Trump was the chosen one, like he said during a press conference back about 7 months ago. He said, "I guess I'm the chosen one," and he gave that statement, actually. Is he the chosen one? And I believe he might be, to clean it all up if we would just stand down for a little while and give him a chance. If the guy is a traitor and he turns out to do wrong, you know what? God is in control one way or the other. God will deal with it. But, however, what we need to do is do our part. Be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. And I think if we're a part of the solution and we try to and we stand down and just be good American citizens like we're supposed to be, and look out for our neighbor, look out for ourselves, and don't hurt each other, and obey the Constitution, you know what? We'll be okay. Because we hear about this martial law out there. We see people, everyone's going to get snatched up. We're going to get dragged away in handcuffs, blah, 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 blah. Tell me something. Have you seen anybody arrested yet? Have you seen anybody beaten down by the police yet and dragged off to a FEMA detention camp? No.
I have not seen a single thing, Joe.
Exactly. Isn't that amazing? But what was happening 9 months ago? You were seeing people shot in the streets, murdered, riots,
Absolutely. Now, you see right now, you talk about, the use of force. We have the situation in Rhode Island now where the governor of Rhode Island is ordering the National Guard, the Rhode Island State Police, to, basically detain citizens of New York who happen to be in Rhode Island. And that includes going door to door to look for citizens from New York that are in Rhode Island. So,
really?
What does that open up to
do we have any intel reports? Do we have any intel reports that is true, or is that just the news media blurting it out on Fox, CNN, or anything else? Because they say a lot of things, don't they?
They do.
Well, what would be wrong with that? That's the smartest thing to do. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. I didn't hear you, sir.
No, I'm saying what would be wrong with that? That's a smart move to take, considering the Northeast has such high population density compared to the rest of the country. And the fact that New York is like the powder keg and the epicenter of all this stuff, wouldn't that be a smart thing to do? Why would you want people from New York in your state?
Well, wait a second. We don't want military troops not kicking down people's doors and saying you're from New York State and dragging you off.
Well, it's not going to be that
of
bad.
course
Obviously, well, they're probably just going to ask them if they're from New York, if they've been there within the last whatever number of months.
None of your business. That's what I was saying. None of your business.
Yeah.
No,
it is their business because you don't want it to spread. I mean, you know what's going on in New York, right? New York obviously is the worst situation in the country right now. You do acknowledge
Are
that,
you
right?
Well, what do you mean? How can I acknowledge that? I'm not there. Are you from New York?
No, I'm not from New York, but are you telling me that the numbers being put out are not true, that they had the highest infection rates in the whole country?
Well, hang on a second. You cut me off. But do you have any friends or family? Do you have any friends or family that you know of that live in New York and have witnessed anything in New York?
Yes, my sister goes to college at NYU, and she had to leave there and go down to D.C. because schools got closed there, and a lot of people that she knows got infected. And
whoa! Oh, she has. Oh, wait a second. She has to leave there because the schools are closed down and go back home. But wait a second. You just said that's a far cry from being asked where you live or getting dragged out of your front door and taken away. So you said she chose to leave, right? She could have stayed if she wanted to, right?
Yeah, of course. But she left. She left before everything was taken in, because NYU was one of the first schools to close. So this is before everything set off.
Yeah. Okay, so she chose to leave. Okay, nothing wrong with that. No, there wasn't a National Guardsman there with an M16 pointed at her head saying, "Hey, get out of New York. You're not from here, right?"
Right. That's not what's going to happen in Rhode Island. Obviously, all they're going to do is tell people who are from New York who just came there to either go back or have to self-quarantine for 14 days?
Yeah, but the problem, my point is that hasn't happened though. We don't know anybody where that has happened yet. Where that's all news media. That's news media blitz. That's fake news, hyping up the people to think that's going to happen. It hasn't happened.
Right. No, that's all I was saying was if that were the case, I wouldn't fault Rhode Island for doing that, considering the Northeast, unlike the rest of the country, like I'm from the Midwest, we don't have the same population density like they do up there. That's why in the Northeast it spreads, and you could have viruses spread a lot faster than everywhere else in the country.
Why would you want something like that to happen? That's total dictatorship. That's total. That's Nazi Germany all over again. Why would you want any American being forced to go someplace else? I mean, they're not hurting anybody. I don't understand. Why would you want that to happen?
It's not that you want that to happen. We're trying to prevent the spread of a disease and we don't want a lot of people dying. That's the whole point. This isn't government overreach.
Go ahead, Chad.
You don't think you don't think the coronavirus is a real thing or like a real problem?
Okay. Now
I don't know.
Coronavirus exists. I'm disputing a lot of the facts that they're stating that, people are dying and all these, who's dying? We're not seeing, they're saying so many died here, so many died there, but they're not showing
right.
Us. Usually there's names. Usually they're talking about funeral arrangements and family members and candlelight vigils, but you are not hearing anything about that. Okay, so
what are you talking about? There's been plenty of names reported. They just put out a story the other day. There was a school principal in Brooklyn that had just died. There was another police officer, I believe, in the NYPD that just died from the coronavirus. There's plenty. If you look online, you can look up plenty of stories of individuals who are named and identified people who died from the coronavirus.
Yeah, but where are you getting your information from? You're
getting
it from
any
the corporation.
major news outlet. You can get them from anywhere.
Exactly.
I mean, you're making it.
Exactly.
You think they're fabricating it?
Yes, I do. I don't have any proof. I don't have anything to say that it's true either. I don't have anything firsthand knowledge to say that it's true.
Okay, so let me just establish one thing. Do you think that the coronavirus is a real, pandemic that's something to be concerned about, or do you think it's being over-exaggerated by the media?
I don't know. I don't know anybody that has it in my neighborhood. I don't know anybody across the country that I know personally that has it. I don't know anybody that's witnessed anybody that has it. All I know is what I see on a TV screen, which we know has told many, many lies.
If you don't mind me asking, what state do you live in?
North Carolina.
Okay, so I'm from Minnesota. I would say our two states probably have one of the lowest rates out there, right? I mean, in my state, I think it's maybe 10 people. I don't know how many people in your state have been reported to have it. Do you know?
Reported? I think there's I don't know, but I'll get you that number. Not many.
Right. So I'm just saying, the areas that are hit the hardest is Washington State, California, and New York. Those three states have gotten basically the bulk of most of the infections. So most of us in the middle of the country, or whether you're in the Midwest or down south, it's not.
So they say.
It doesn't really. Of course, I mean, unless the government's lying to us. I mean, this is all coming from the CDC. So either the CDC is lying to us or they're telling the truth. It could go either way. But
okay, all right. So all right. That's interesting what you just said. Either way, it's 50-50 either way, because they could be telling us the truth, but they might not be. So I don't know who's got the background noise again. I can hear just like an echo. It's just so distracting. I don't know. It's not that hard. I mean, but anyway. Take away individuals' their rights based upon a news report that we don't know that's true, but could be.
Hey, look, I don't want any civil liberty violations either. I mean, I'm all for protecting our civil liberties, but at the same time, if this coronavirus is a real pandemic and we're talking about, elderly people and people with, certain health conditions that could put them at risk, could really have their lives in danger, then obviously everyone would want to take every precaution, because we all got people in our family that would fit in those categories, right? We got grandparents, uncles, aunts, people who are elderly, people who maybe have diabetes or have had lung conditions, that will put them at risk, obviously. I mean, you would agree with that, right?
Of course I don't want to see anybody put at risk, of course, but what I'm saying is what gives you, I mean, I'm just saying, what evidence do you have that that's an absolute truth? That we need to quarantine people in New York, take away their individual liberties because they're going to put or don't allow them to travel to Rhode Island and be with their loved ones because they're going to infect them and kill them or make them sick. What absolute facts do you have to prove to me right now and all these listeners that is 100% accurate? None. You said it's based upon what the CDC said.
Do you believe the president? Do you think President Trump's lying to us?
Do I think I don't know. But based upon the events of everything that has transpired, I would say that he's pretty much working in our best interest from what I know and gather. Okay, from what I see and people that are dealing with him firsthand. I could say that.
Right, so if you were president right now, in light of what we do know, I mean, again, Trump's getting the same info. I'm assuming we are, maybe not. I don't know. If he's getting the same info the CDC's putting out, if you got that, what would you do as president? How would you handle it?
Oh, I would never take away anyone's individual constitutional rights based upon secondhand information. I would have to see it for myself if I was the leader of this country.
So then that's what leads into when we talk about Trump here, is that, do you think that Trump's getting the information? Do you think maybe people are lying to him? Or do you think that he knows otherwise? Or what do you think's going on? Because everything he's saying in these press conferences leads me to believe that he believes it's a real serious issue.
Hang on, 386. I saw you, 386. I saw you with your hand up. I will get to you, 386. Chad, you watching the board here? You got callers here. You had 386 there. He did press 1. But based upon what I think you have someone who may want to interject with what you're saying. 386 had his hand up. Go ahead. I'll unmute him for you. Go ahead. 386.
Go ahead, 386. You're on.
All right, 386. We lost them. Okay. Yeah, they had their hand up. They did press 1. I saw them for a while there. Okay, look, we're playing semantics here, and what if? What ifs are not justified in taking anyone's individual constitutional rights away. Never. Government does not have that authority. However, if this virus is doing what it's doing, supposedly, then of course government should suggest things that people need to do to protect themselves. We all have free will to move about as we will. Are we hurting people by doing exercising our free will? Then government has to step in. But we're dealing with a system that has never been totally transparent or honest with us. So we're in a very tight situation, a very iffy situation, and it's hard to make that rational decision that's going to affect everybody or a few individuals. We have to be very careful in a republic. You have to remember, in a republic, even if one person is not, says no, then everybody else has to go along with it. It's like a jury. One person says not guilty, you have to let that person go. That's a republic. So we have to be very careful on what we're carefully. And you know what question I'd be asking, sir? If I was President Trump and I was in his position like you asked, I'd be saying, who created this mess to begin with? How did this all start? And then let's start from there, and then we let the heads roll from the top to the bottom. Common sense. What do you think?
No, I agree with that, and in my opinion, I think the Chinese actually created this in a lab, and I think this was bioengineered to use as a weapon. But that's, aside from that, my whole thing is when it comes to the president and what he's doing, I just feel like when you're in that position, you have to be responsible for how you lead things, which you do. And I don't think the president wants to take the chance to let people die and put them, I just don't think you want to have that on his conscience. Because if you know that there's a risk that potentially X number of people could die from this, I think any responsible leader will want to take every precaution necessary, right? I mean, you can't fault him for doing that. Because if, let's say this is really a bad virus, and let's say tens of thousands of people die from it, I mean, what person would want to live with that? And I have that on their conscience, saying that maybe he could have done more to stop it. And in an election year, by the way, let's think about how the bigger picture could end up playing out. Let's say it ends up being really bad. Trump doesn't take enough precaution. The media will make sure he gets the full blame for it. And then the Democrats come in with a landslide. And then that's it. Our Constitution is out the window. Because we know once the Democrats come back to power and they have the White House, the Senate, and extend the lead in the House, it's a wrap. They're going to eviscerate the Bill of Rights as we know it. So, in a way, I kind of want him to do everything possible to make sure that he doesn't get any blame for this, so that in November 2020 we can keep him and the Republicans in power.
All right, okay. Chad, go ahead. You want to comment on what he said?
Okay, now, we've got that covered there. Now, what do you think, okay, if you were the president, okay, what would you do to combat this more than what is being done? What would you do?
No, I think Trump's doing everything he can do. I don't think there's anything beyond this that can be done other than instituting martial law, which is something I don't think Trump's going to do, and I don't think it's necessary. So I think Trump's doing everything you can and should do at this point. So I'm totally on board with what he's doing.
So
now,
to the original. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chad.
Okay, so these quarantines and stuff that are going on, these shutdowns and stuff, and they talk about essential personnel and such. Okay, and you've got all these fast food restaurants and stuff like that are still open, doing carry out and stuff. Okay, do you think that in order to help combat this, do you think those places like the Arby's, McDonald's, all that stuff, do you think they should still be open and still having contact with patrons? Or you think those should be considered non-essential and shut down as well completely?
No, I mean as long as they meet the guidelines as far as cleanliness and making sure they prepare food in a certain way and that the employees are keeping good hygiene, I think that's fine. Just some simple fact that we want to keep food available for people because not everyone can afford to go out and spend money on buying a lot of groceries. Some people have to resort to eating cheap fast food just to get by in the short term.
Okay. Now, do you have any comment on the toilet paper shortages?
No, that's ridiculous, right? We all agree that's an example of the media messing with everybody and people falling for the hype. But anything,
back to the original topic of the show, Chad, let's stay on topic. Restoring our republic, currency. We opened up with the currency thing, and we got way off topic here, and we started attacking Donald Trump. We're here to restore our republic. We're restoring our republic. What do you want to see happen to restore our republic? What's most important to you as a citizen in this country to restore a lawful republic and have a lawful de jure government and a bartering system, where you came in on the conversation with the bartering system? What would be lawful to you? How do we restore our republic in your opinion, sir?
Well, I would say first and foremost, everything starts in this upcoming November. Because if the Democrats come to power, then you can throw all of that out the window. They won't let that happen. And in fact, they'll force us into a tyrannical-like government. They'll basically eviscerate the First Amendment as we know it. We know what they want to do with the Second Amendment. And they'd start a massive march against our rights. So that would be the first step. Unless we make sure the Republicans keep the White House, keep the Senate, and take the House back, nothing else will get done. And this includes, bringing people to justice in the FBI and the CIA. All of that all depends upon the Republicans taking power. If that doesn't happen, nothing else will work. So that's got to be step one, and everything else rides from that. Do you disagree? Or?
I do disagree because the Republicans have had power already, and that did not happen. It wasn't until this happened that Donald Trump has united the Democrats and Republicans to finally start doing things to restore our republic. So while our republic is being restored, what do the people think and have to say, hey, it's here at our fingertips. The republic is here. Donald Trump is offering it right here on a silver platter. He's going to give us, $3,000-$4,000 each family. We don't have to pay our electric bill. We don't have to pay our internet bill right now. All debts are going to be forgiven. Our mortgages are out the window. Car payments are out the window. We're spending time with our family right now. We're supposed to be, but you got the idiots out there who still can't figure that out, because they're too busy running around like chickens with their head cut off because they don't even have a bottle of water in the refrigerator because every time they got paid, they were broke before they got their check. So, but the thing of it is that how do we Donald Trump is giving us our republic right here on a silver platter. What so what's the most important issue to you
a lot of
in
that
restoring our republic?
Yet. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things there that I don't see any policies addressing any of that as far as canceling people's debts, canceling mortgages. Did you see any of that in written policy regarding any of that? I haven't seen anything saying anything about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. He said you're not going to be able the taxes, for instance. I bumped that up to July, the taxes,
right.
What's
that's just an extension.
Yeah, that's the first time in ever history of this country.
Canceling debts and canceling mortgages. I haven't heard anybody other than a handful of politicians even mention that. So that's not even on the table as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. Have you seen otherwise? I haven't seen anything saying that like this.
Actually, Chase Manhattan. Yeah, I mean, yes, there's been a lot of debts canceled around globally, actually, and yes, there's been debts canceled here also already. That's already begun. There's a lot of debts that have been canceled already. I mean, I don't have the entire list in front of me right now of what's going on and what's happening, but there's a lot of things going on right now that things are being put a halt to, and it's being fixed right behind the scenes as we speak. I don't know if anyone's got any information out there that can help me out with any of this. I know there's people that are knowledgeable of this. That would be great if they
I'd love
to
see it, because the most I've heard is that there's been like a temporary halt on people's rent and holding eviction notices and some saying maybe holding utility costs for a month or two. That's the most I've heard. I've not heard any policy mentioning canceling any debts, any mortgages, anything like that. So I know in Europe that's the case, but as far as in the U.S., I haven't seen anything regarding that. So, I mean, if that were the case, that'd be great. But I don't think that's going to happen. Who's going to pay for that?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, go ahead, Chad.
Okay, so the possibility that if the Democrats retake the White House, if the Democrats somehow regain control of the Senate as well, they manage to control the House, okay, and we move on to a new system of currency, digital currency, how do you feel if that ends up happening? How do you feel that will shape us?
That'll be the end of America as we know it, because the Democrats have made it clear. Anyone who's been following closely what's happened, this is not the Democratic Party of JFK and not even the Democratic Party of Obama back in 2008. This party has shifted far to the left. Their policies would radically change the way our country is, and they've made it clear. They want to implement censorship on a massive level. They want to get rid of the Second Amendment completely. They're not even hiding it anymore. They have made it clear as far as how much they want to grow the power of the federal government, and they want to stack the Supreme Court. They want to add up to maybe 9 new Supreme Court justices so that they can load it up and make sure that it remains in the power of the left for the foreseeable future. And so, to me, that risk far outweighs anything else. That's war. That'd be more deadly than any depression or anything we could face, because they would essentially destroy our Constitution.
Well,
so that
I want to ask
to me is the worst case scenario.
All right. Well, the IRS considers most forms. I want to give you the news right here. The IRS considers most forms of forgiven, canceled, or settled debt as income for tax purposes. If the amount of your canceled debt is more than $600 and is considered taxable, a lender is required to send you the 1099-C. Now, as of April 30th, 2019, the IRS has forgiven so much debt out there and discharged so much debt. I don't have the exact list right here, but they began the cancellation of debt. Actually, it's May 7th, I think, 2018. They began this. So they've been doing. This has been begun already. I don't have all the exact stats, like you said, but a lot of debts have been forgiven. And I brought up Chase in Canada that forgave everyone's mortgages. All debt was forgiven. We can go to the Rothschilds having to step down as CEOs. Let's see, how many CEOs have been fled already and stepped down and resigned? I think there's 59 as the first week of March. 59 of them have stepped down. They're going to be indicted. So a lot's been going on. It's just that people haven't been paying too much attention to it. Let's see here. I've got a caller here right now. I'm not gonna. Actually, I got 2. I got one here that I do know of from the state of Connecticut. Hold on. I got another person here that may be able to help me out here with this caller, since we've been going back and forth on this. Maybe explain a little bit, and he can spread it around to his friends on the internet and say, hey, there's good things going on right now. So go ahead, caller.
Dr. Joe, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, Dr. Joe. Great conversation you're having tonight. I do have some input on this subject. First, I want to address the coronavirus. I have in my files a documentation of the patent held by a foundation funded by Bill Gates. And we know that he's in for mass world depopulation and microchipping everybody. And he's gone public with that. I do have family members that are incarcerated in the hospital with corona. My wife's grandson is in the hospital with corona. Another radio talk show host that I'm in contact with was in tears the other day. Is his 15-year-old daughter in New York City is in the hospital and with corona, and she's not able to communicate with him. So I have a lot of personal people that actually are suffering from this virus. I have plenty of documentation that leads us to believe that this was an intentional attack by China. We can't use nuclear bombs because if we do, the whole world goes up. And so this is another form of weaponized warfare that we find ourselves in. And with that documentation, that's why the War Powers Act and the various executive powers come into play, as long as abiding by one's oath of office, which is to protect the American people from all enemies, domestic and foreign. So I can appreciate Donald Trump's problem, and it is a viable problem. As far as the debt forgiveness goes, you can go to BBC News, and you can see that it was about 2 weeks ago that Italy, Ireland, and the UK, they have stopped mortgage payments. We have a business, and we've been talking to the bank because it's a business that is not listed as an essential business, and we're looking into the SBA loans and the help to continue to go forward, and the banks are saying this to us, that principal and interest payments are suspended. If you can make your payment to the regarding your property taxes and insurance on the property, that we would encourage you to go ahead and make those monthly payments. And if you can't, the bank's happy to talk to us about rolling those to the end of the loan. So it's kind of like filling a water glass. That glass doesn't automatically fill itself. It starts drop by drop. And so what we're seeing is the drop by drop filling of the water glass, if you will take my analogy. So I can put to rest some of the debate and concerns, and justifiable concerns, that the American people are asking, because it's time the American people start asking themselves these hard questions. And now our duty as Americans and patriotic Americans is to get to the bottom of this and figure out what the truth is. And this is what this show's all about, and I appreciate your hosting this, Joe. Let me give us a little history on world banking. The Deutsche Bank
caller, we don't have a whole lot of time. We do have other callers to get to.
Okay.
If he could just like give us like maybe take like 2 minutes, and then maybe take a couple other new callers and take 2 minutes from them, because they want to cheer in on this too. But the caller does have something interesting to say. Yeah, but if you give like 2 minutes to sum it up, because we're running out of time. I hate to see people get cut off.
Well, I believe this is pertinent. I'm just not burning airtime. During the Nuremberg trials after World War II, the bank that the Nazis used to facilitate and fund their operations were run through the Deutsche Bank. We all know that the Nazis dispersed worldwide, and that they've gone to South America and to the U.S. and different countries around the United States, but they left the Deutsche Bank intact. And the Deutsche Bank is still up to its nefarious activities funding this agenda. We also look to the triads and the Far East, and they've been involved in human trafficking and drugs, and we look to Air America and our own country, and we have plenty of corruption there. And so in order for the world to cut the head off of the giant that it's facing, it's essential that we cut off the funding and revamp the financial system as per the status quo. And so the BRICS system has been developed, and it's been running parallel for the last year. And so we are in the process as a world of transitioning the way that we value our money and how that's handled, so that we can finally get control of these people that have enslaved us, have taxed us to death, and are controlling us through our money. And thank you for allowing me to finish. I'll yield.
Oh, you're welcome. We are welcome. Thank you so much. But, yield there. You got 203 that wants to converse with this caller that was just on also. And the banking system is very difficult. It's not something you can explain in like 2 minutes or 3 minutes. It's very difficult. And so Americans are begging for answers. So go ahead, see if you can connect 203. I think maybe he wants to maybe add to this too.
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Go ahead, you are on.
This is 203, and I am on. Boy, I don't know. I haven't had a TV for a while there. My antenna's been down. I just put it up. This virus thing, boy, isn't this something? Yeah, well, like the last caller said, we got to get the American people involved. I got news for you. Half of the American people really don't give two hoots about anything, and they don't know anything, and you're not going to get them involved because they don't even know where their money comes from. Trump just put out this $2.2 trillion, and that was a drop in the hat compared to what Pelosi wanted. Pelosi wanted so much more out of that. And if Trump is really doing what we think he's doing, why doesn't he just agree to what Pelosi wanted and really take the system down? That's what I say. Because just ask 2 or 3 Americans, where does that $2.2 trillion come from? You know what? Their head blows up because they haven't a clue. Well, they took it out of the bank. No, that's right. They took it out of the bank. And you're not going to explain to them at all where it came from. But, as far as the virus goes and everything, everyone should have planned for this. We're all over 18. We should have known better. You've got to do some planning. You should have known better when you gave that bank the mortgage. You're not going to be able to pay for it. Somehow they're going to refinance it. They're going to stop the payments and put them to the end of the loan, like the last caller said. And those interest payments are going to be so overwhelming that you're just not going to make it. And the inflation out of this is going to be so high if Trump doesn't do what you think he's going to do, we're going to be Venezuela when this is all over. But that's just my thoughts on a little bit of what I've heard. I haven't been on the entire call, but that's just my thoughts for right now.
Well, what do you expect? What would you? Well, hang on, I got a question for the caller. What would you want Trump to do? What would you like to see him do?
Well, supposedly he has a room full of indictments. Let's start serving them. Hill and Hillary Clinton were on TV giving away, 10,000 pizzas or 1,000 pizzas or something like this. There was talk out there that this virus was made by the People's Liberation Army and it came from China and everything, like the last caller said. That could be true. Well, let's find that out. We can find out where this comes from. Mother Nature already has the cure for this, most likely. Why aren't we looking into that? We're not looking into that because Big Pharma is not involved and there's no profit in it. So do I think Trump is a good president? I think he's a good president. He's better than all the rest. Do I think that he's going to do what we think he's going to do? I don't think so.
All right. Well, that's your opinion. Okay. I'm not really the host. Does anyone want to jump in there? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I yield. Go ahead.
Okay. So with that being said, with everything going on, and we were talking about, how to restore our republic, back on subject here, what can we do, how can we completely restore the system? What is it going to take for us to do that? How can we achieve that?
Well, I've made suggestions on many shows for just starters. First of all, we need all local grand juries and stop the court systems from getting involved the way they are to begin with. Just 12 or whatever of our peers when you're pulled over by a law enforcement officer. I know down south they have a little bit different system than we have here up north, but I don't know. I'm not a republic person. I know what legal and lawful is, and I know about our Constitution and our Bill of Rights and things like that. But I don't know what to do. I think Trump if he's doing this to reflect a good republic, then he's going about it the right way. But as I said previously, do I think he's going to continue? No, I don't.
Okay. Joe, you got anything to add to that?
Let's take let's see the area code there. The other caller before him. Do you want to add to that? Take a couple minutes to add to that. You're hearing someone out there that's from. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like a piece of that, Joe.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Why not?
It's important that we understand the enemy and identify the enemy. Lincoln inherited a government in name only because it didn't have constitutional representation, and so it couldn't conduct the business of the government. So he, by executive order, he formed an interim corporation, and we went from common law to codes and statutes under admiralty law, which we suffer greatly under today. And so then we get into the law, and the law says that if a corporation goes bankrupt, it goes into receivership. And so we all know that we've been told for years that our country is bankrupt. And so let's assume that all that's true. Now, if the Federal Reserve and the government was not to be able to make their payments and they went bankrupt, then who is responsible for the debts of the corporation? Because it goes into receivership. So there's an old axiom in time that says the creator is always greater than the created. So if the people of the constitutional republic of our forefathers created a corporation, then that comes back on them because they are the creator. Would I be correct in that statement? So this is the dilemma that we find ourselves into today, is that how do we make that transition back in a lawful, peaceful manner with the least amount of collateral damage? And Trump can only play the cards that he's dealt with the players that are in the game. And we know that there are good patriot people involved, and there are plenty of the dark side with their own agendas involved. And so it becomes quite a swamp, as President Trump has described it over the years. And so as we face this time of transition, it's his duty to protect the American people and make this transition as painless as possible. Another point I'd like to make is we all know contract law, that if somebody puts a gun to your head and says, sign this contract, that contract's not enforceable because that was made under duress, not voluntarily. So my point being is that of these contracts that we have with banks for mortgages, credit cards, so on and so forth, were made in fraud. Well, the same applies to contracts made in fraud. They're not enforceable. So that's why we're seeing the beginning rollouts. Remember my illustration, the glass in the water, drop by drop. You fill the glass drop by drop. And so this postponing tax filing, you postpone the collection of what's contracted under fraud to the end of the loan. That gives the American people a time to catch their breath, get their stuff organized, and as this glass fills, you will find that those contracts then are not merely extended, but they are forgiven because it was
all right.
made
So those
under
so
fraud.
those contracts, that's what I wanted to get to. Actually, those contracts will be forgiven. But like the last caller there, friend, that just called from Connecticut, these Americans out there don't have a clue what you're talking about.
One comment on that.
Go ahead. And then I got my friend. I got another host that's supposed to be on here. So I think he's waiting on hold. I want to connect him actually. But go ahead. Yeah, comment please.
These contracts that are forgiven, I put 10 years of labor into building this person's house, and now their contract is forgiven. How am I made? That's just an example. How am I made whole out of that?
Yeah. Well, think about that question.
Right.
Well, all right, go ahead, real quick, because I got Chad. We got a bunch of other callers.
Yeah, we do have other callers we got to get to.
What we're experiencing right now is that the nations of the world have come together in agreement, and they are settling the books. They're settling the antiquities bonds. They're settling the debt that's owed to us from rebuilding Japan and Europe. All that money is owed to us, but these countries have no way of repaying us. And so what they're doing is they are resettling the books, dispersing the money country to country according to what is justifiably theirs. The gold that was stolen out of the trade centers, the gold that's stolen out of Fort Knox is being returned to the American people. And when all of this plays out, all of us will be in a new, happy day. Thank you for your time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I wouldn't bet on that.
Okay. We got.
All right. Well, hang on. No, Chad, I know you got a caller that's been waiting a long time. Go ahead. Connect him. He should have been here in the beginning if he was prepared. But go ahead.
970.
No. You got. I thought. Where's your other host at there? Where's he at? No. Here he is. This is him right here. There he is. Go ahead. No. 701.
701. Okay.
Hello. How's the audio now?
Yeah, there you go. Now you're on. I can hear you.
All right. So obviously, monetary policy is a huge discussion in this restoration of the republic so far, and I think monetary policy has been best addressed in our time by Ron Paul, who has continuously fought to try and get the Fed audited, to try and get the Fed, ultimately removed from the equation, and a restoration of a currency that would be backed by gold or silver. He's talked about that for a great many years, since probably I would guess 60s or 70s, since before I was born. He's been fighting for that, and he talks a lot about how the Fed ultimately would end up destroying itself, just because the currency as it is currently distributed and produced out of literal thin air. They just write it in ledgers when they loan it to the United States, and it's backed by absolutely nothing but the word of the United States corporation that it is worth something. He actually predicted that at some point that bubble was going to break and people were going to realize that it wasn't worth the printing that it was written on. But what we're also seeing in all of this events that are happening right now is another massive thing that should be addressed, in that who authorized under Constitution to declare an emergency and revoke people's rights to travel, to come outside their homes in some cases, to run their businesses, to pursue their life, liberty, and happiness. I don't recall anywhere within the Constitution that any governor had the right to do such. And before somebody gets smart and says something about the states having their rights reserved where the federal government could not, it's clause in the Constitution, there is every state in the union that agreed to join that union also agreed to the Bill of Rights that were listed among those within that Constitution. So all of the delegates that were there that day agreed to those terms, that no state would destroy anybody's rights either. So there is no constitutional basis for some state of emergency to force people without any due process to stay within their homes, to quarantine in place, or no other imaginary garbage that they keep coming up with. And we need to be bringing that to these governors, to these officials, and start figuring out a way to hold them accountable for
denying us our rights. And I'd like to hear someone come up with a solution to how we can make them understand they can't just declare a random emergency and take away everybody's rights.
Well, that was the main question. Well, hang on. That was the main question there that one individual did bring up earlier in the podcast. I know that the main topic here is to restore our republic, but, doesn't the government have an obligation to protect? I mean, if you're sick and you're hurting someone else, and we had a caller that said, hey, I've got family members that got this virus and whatnot. I mean, don't they have that obligation to say, hey, everyone stay in your homes for now, because we got this deadly virus. And, look, you can still go out and get your food. You can still go out and get what you got to need. Nobody's standing there with a gun pointing at your front door. If you come out, you're going to get shot. But be responsible. Be responsible. Why is everyone upset at that? Doesn't the government have a responsibility to do that? That was one of the questions.
Joe, may I chime in on that?
Yes, please. Go ahead, please.
Hang on. What was reported?
Adam, go ahead. Hang on.
What was reported today about the group of people back east that were, I believe they numbered 47, that were at a big party, and law enforcement came down on them? That makes my point. How do you legislate morality and common sense? And we know that our society today lacks both. But yet we have a sworn duty to protect and to serve. And so we are correct. There is a fine line there. And when people don't have that compass that guides them and feels like that this doesn't apply to them, that they're not possibly carriers, or that they couldn't contaminate and destroy other people's lives. And so all they're concerned about is their party, their social gathering, without regards to society, then, where is that fine line at?
All right, let's ask that question. Adam, go ahead. Then we got 386 that's been waiting, Chad. You got 386 after Adam. Go ahead.
Yep.
That fine line is where you have denied me my rights because of that party of 30 and decided that I have no due process, and you have imprisoned me in my home because of the actions of somebody else. You cannot deprive people of their rights without due process. And if a person is acting recklessly, I've heard it said, well, you can't just walk around and start shooting at everybody and you might kill somebody. They're equivalent to walking around out in public without quarantining to walking around with a gun shooting people is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. That is not what people are doing. People are just trying to get to work, get home, and God forbid I might want to take a stroll around a park or whatever. That is my right to do that. Now, if somebody is intentionally going around coughing on people and intentionally trying to harm others, that's where that right has infringed upon another. And yes, then created a criminal activity where due process would take place. If you had an actual sick person who is confirmed to be sick, who is refusing to quarantine and is doing something that would possibly harm another person, then yes, they are not being responsible for their own behavior and they are harming others. And due process would say that we could investigate that, prove that, and quarantine them. But you cannot wholesale hold an entire population in captivity for the actions of a few without due process. That's not what this country is about. And you're setting a precedent here whereby the government has now figured out that the entire population will simply roll over whenever they decide there's an emergency. And we can't have that. We can't do it. You can't wholesale imprison a population. That's not kosher, it's not constitutional, and it's not anything you would find in the history of the founders up until this point. It's really a ridiculous notion.
All right. 386. Chad, you got 386 here. Go ahead, unmute 386, and then maybe if people want to respond to what Adam just said.
Do you have anything to add to that?
You hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
hey, Joe. Just wanted to say that I don't know whether it's true or not about this virus, but we did supposedly our first death in the county that I live in. I live in Florida, and there has been like 3 or 4 with the case in the city that I live in New Smyrna Beach, but one did die today from the virus. And also, I got a pamphlet, and I don't know if I got one either that was in my mail this morning that said President Trump's coronavirus guidelines for America. And I was curious if you guys got this pamphlet. What is something we already know about, if you get around somebody, you know what I'm saying. If you feel like you got a flu or something, don't get around people. It's everything we already know. But I did
background noise. Whoever's got the background noise there in the background. I know some people don't do it, but other people it's the same. You can't have any noise, man. I can't hear this guy. And I've got 7 emails now that are listening on the internet. They can't hear. Please. I mean, it's not that hard. It's just that's the way it's got to. Pretend you're in a courtroom standing in front of a judge. I don't know. He's going to hold you in contempt. You sit there with your hands underneath your ass then. Come on, man.
Well,
go ahead, 386. I couldn't hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, you didn't hear what I said about the pamphlet?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. There's been a case in the county that I live in now that somebody died today in the same county I live in Volusia County, Florida. I'm not. I don't know if it's all real or whatever, but it has affected my life. I'm sure it's affected you guys' life. I want to say it's not real, the virus. No. What do I want to infect, or would want to look back and say no because I ignored it, that I should have done something different? So anyway, I did get a pamphlet in the mail today that says it's about everything we already have heard about the virus, but it says President Trump's coronavirus guidelines for America. I was curious if any of you other guys got that. I got that in the mail this morning, and I did want to say that.
All right, so you got a pamphlet. All right, so you got a pamphlet in the mail, and you're putting it out there, wondering if any of us got a pamphlet in the mail concerning Donald Trump and the coronavirus. Has anybody out there got that pamphlet in the mail by any chance? No. Anybody?
I haven't checked my mail.
I guess it's just forwarded.
Okay, I did, and it does say the CDC or whatever. I don't know. They're not asking for any money or no donations or anything like that. But I did get that, and also there is a couple cases in the city that I live in where people have gotten infected. But today, someone died in the same county that I live in, and there was the governor of Florida had a live thing on today about, just more or less things. We already know, stay 6 feet away from people, don't gather more than 10 people at a time, and, be aware and try to, not spread this. So, anyway, I just thought I would throw in my...
Well, to the beginning of the show, 386, to the beginning of the show, what would you like to see for the Republic to be restored? What would you like to see? The main thing, without a 15-minute conversation about it, what would you like to see for the Republic? What would you like to see the Republic? How would you like to see the Republic?
I would like to see more of the Constitution upheld. I would like to see less gun control. I feel like you should be able to own your own gun as long as you're not harming anybody. I'm not saying for anyone to go out here and harm anybody. Joe, you've known me. I believe in you should be able to hunt and stuff with a rifle. You should have home protection. If you want to own a gun to protect your home, you got your family, by all means, I believe that. That is in our Constitution. And that that's one thing, is to uphold my Constitution. I want this virus to go away because it is affecting, I'm not working now because of it. And I pray that just goes away and no more people get sick or die. And I would just like to see, a better country. I mean, that's all. Hey, do you think that's funny? Down here, gas is under $2 a gallon. I mean, gas has dropped dramatically. I don't.
All right. Well, that's a good thing. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Okay.
you want to see the Constitution enforced? Okay. All right. That's good. You got another. People want to see more of the Constitution. I think they like that. 717. Go ahead. You got to unmute them. There you go. I'll do it for you. Go ahead.
There it is. Yep.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello? Okay. The lady that was just on, she got a pamphlet. My mom got a pamphlet in the mail today with basically the same thing. As of either yesterday or today, 9 people have died here in Oklahoma. A lot of the places are shut down, or you have to go to the window or have people deliver stuff. And like I said, at least 6 feet. A lot of the people that have businesses have said that if they get caught not following whatever their rules are, they will shut them down.
All right. So for your republic to be restored, the main topic here tonight is what would you like to see the republic? How would you like to see the republic restored? What's important to you as far as the republic goes? What's important? What would you like to see be restored?
Basically our rights. I understand precautions of everything that they want us to do, but a lot of people don't even know if they are or are not infected. You don't know. I do worry about going out and coming home and bringing something back to my grandpa. He's 95. That's definitely a terrifying thing for me. But, I think we should have our rights to assemble however we want to. Even with preachers and stuff, you got families that are starving because their parents have not been able to work. There's children talking about suicide. I think this is a big thing, and it needs to be addressed.
Right, so you want more government? So do you want more government or you want less government? I mean, obviously the republic is less government. But, so do you want to see the Constitution come into play?
Yeah. I want our rights, to be restored. I want the real Constitution, not this hocus-pocus Constitution that they've made.
All right, that's a good point. Yeah, with statutes and codes that do nothing but extract money from people.
Exactly.
Well, what she's talking about is the deprivation of rights. What they've done is deprived people of their rights, their ability to go out and make a living, the ability to go out to even get things they need when they need it. And hell, Joe, I can't even go out and get a haircut. So how are the hairdressers making and the barbers making a living right now if they've got that all shut down? You can't – there is no clause in the Constitution that says that the government has the duty. They don't have rights. They have duties. There is no duty that gives them the authority to shut down wholesale people's lives. And that's one of the things that if we are going to restore the republic, we need to remember what it is that these people are actually given the authority to do. They are given authority by our permission. They are not given authority by some divine right to rule and tell us what to do and how to live our lives. They don't.
Or
they don't
virus.
Get to tell us, you can't go swim in that swimming pool because it's too cold. That's not, that's not up for government to make those kinds of decisions in our lives.
That's a very interesting point, Adam, you just brought up. That's a very interesting point you just brought up. Yeah.
So, now, for future reference, within the republic and the restoration of the public, that is a good point. What's to say that, they won't have some other instance in the future. If we don't get control of our republic, then this can continue to happen.
Yeah, we've already seen the deprivation of our rights to bear arms, our right to have a militia for the security of the free state. We've seen that as soon as you have events like school shootings. The debate is never whether the shooter was on drugs, some mind-altering drug, or whether the shooter had some bullying instance, or he had some psychological issues, or he was a child of a single-parent home that was broken, or nothing like that. No, we've got to have this divisive debate over whether the right to bear arms is valid or not. We're going to take away your right or not take away your right. Why do we go to the discussion of whether the right to own firearms is valid? Why don't we figure out what caused the criminal to conduct their criminal act and deal with that accordingly? We go straight to the deprivation of rights, and that is not the job of government to deprive rights where they think they see a problem.
Now, should we, as a nation, go back to the old way of punishing criminal acts such as public hangings, things of that nature? Do you think that would be a step forward in the restoring our republic if we actually held the criminal accountable and punished them for the act in the severity that they did back 150 years ago? Do you think that would be a step forward to restoring our republic?
No, not in that sense. So punishing actual criminal acts with incarceration would be a thing. You don't have to necessarily swing everybody from a rope like they did back in the day, but punishing actual criminals, not guys that go out and write bad checks. Those guys don't need to be in jail. Not guys that go out and smoke plants. You know, they don't need to be in prison. Not guys that we were actually not supposed to have debtors jail, but that's a thing now. They're imprisoning people for not paying their traffic tickets and crap like that. No, for actual crimes, yes, there should be an imprisonment. For severe crimes such as, murder or whatever, capital crimes is what we're calling them, I have no problem with the death penalty as long as we have a justice system that is actually interested in truth and is not trying to just close cases. And how you ensure that, I'm not entirely sure. But if we could restore some honor in the justice system, I would actually have more faith in their duty to remove the severest of the criminal element from our society.
So, okay. So with that being said, we go to, we just discussed severe acts like murder, and then you have a suspect who goes to court, has his trial, evidence is presented, and then said offender is found guilty, okay, and the sentence is death, okay. So with that being said, and I'm going to have 612 on here as well, but with that being said, okay, what is the stance? We do away with death row and they go immediately there. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, the whole 5 appeals process or whatever it is that they've got on capital cases is definitely a ridiculous waste of time, money, and space. But the at issue here is that they don't really incriminate people beyond a reasonable doubt, right? So the reason you have these 5 appeals processes to make sure that they don't get it wrong. They're not always interested in truth. There's always a lot of hearsay, opinion, and character witnessing that goes into trying to incriminate people these days, and that's all a bunch of opinion. If we could trust our justice system and actually trust what we're calling law enforcement, who should be actually peacekeepers, not law enforcement, if we trusted them to do their actual jobs and arrest people appropriately who are actually committing real crimes, then we could trust them to incarcerate proper people. Taking out the for-profit motive of private prisons, for example, is another part of this that causes issues, and people getting kickbacks and judges and prosecutors and all that crap. You've got too many cogs in this wheel that are corrupting the justice system, so you can't trust it. We have to restore trust in the justice system, and a part of that, as one of the other callers talked about before, is restoring the Constitution, the Article 3 courts of the original Constitution, and taking out all these administrative corporation processes and all the profiteering that is now being made off our justice system, the bar associations who are profiting off of this by continuing ridiculously stupid litigations and tying up court systems with dumb crap.
So we have a couple other callers we got to get to here. We have 612 on the line that might have something to say about that. We're going to bring 612 on, and then we also have a private caller we've got to bring on as well. 612, you are unmuted, 612.
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say, with the last guy brought the issue of gun control, I mean, we know who the culprit is behind that. It's the Democrats. You just got to call it like it is. It's not the Republicans every time there's a mass shooting that automatically starts calling for the banning of guns or stricter gun laws. So we know who the culprit is. So if you want limited government, if you want to have freedom of guns, but then you're okay with voting for Democrats, that's just, I mean, you're just bringing it on yourself. And to your point about criminal justice, the last thing we need to do in America is soft gun on crime. I mean, the easiest way to avoid having to deal with the court system is not committing crimes. When you soften on crime and you get weak on crime, it encourages crime. It doesn't stop it. It makes people emboldened to commit it because they know the punishment isn't that severe. And so even now we see with these new policies coming in because of this whole epidemic, there are already certain cities and states that are saying they're not going to imprison anyone who commits what they call petty crimes. You know, theft, assaults, even petty drug crimes, they're going to let it slide. And what do you think that's going to lead to? That's going to lead to people committing more crimes. So getting soft on crime has never been a solution. All it does is encourage and increase the problem.
Now, I agree with the premise.
I can see that.
I would say there are some anti-gun Republicans. John McCain would be one that comes right to the top of my mind right off the bat. So while I would say, yes, Democrats generally lead the charge on anti-gun legislation, Republicans tend to also drop in on that too. So that's not to say that that the Republicans are innocent. Basically, they're not. They're complicit, if nothing else, or they will concede the issues in a lot of cases and give in to.
For instance, we have the NRA, who is supposed to be a conservative group, but on the onset, they've actually been complicit in some of the most far-reaching, anti-gun bills there are. Such as the Firearms Act of 1968, which pretty much anybody that even committed a nonviolent, act would still lose their rights to, bear arms.
Yeah, they were also supporters of the instant background check by the federal government, which is, most of us are pretty aware that they're probably keeping all the names they run through that in spite of the fact they say they don't. I don't trust them to do anything. I don't.
Yeah, but I mean, it's as always in American politics, it's the lesser of two evils. So to act as if the Democrats or Republicans, there's no difference, that's ridiculous. The Democrats are clear. They are aggressively going after the Second Amendment. Anyone who's watched any of the recent presidential debates, you can see that. I mean, to act as if there's no difference is to me being negligent. The Democrats are clear. They are against the Constitution. They are against the idea of limited government. They want an all-powerful
trying to
central government.
transformation into some communistic, socialistic, whatever. Absolutely.
So
they've gone.
So if you
well
care about the future of this country, we need to do everything in our power to ensure that the Republicans stay in power. The minute the Democrats have legislative power, where they have the House, the Senate, and the White House, and can pass bills and put laws into place, it's game over.
Absolutely.
The minute they get that, they're going to ram everything through. So, as I told them before, this November is a crisis point for our country. That's a turning point. If the Republicans win, then at least we can delay the inevitable, because eventually this country will collapse, and eventually this Constitution will go out the window. All we're doing right now is slowing the inevitable. Once the Democrats come to power, and eventually they will, that's when this country will change forever. So as long as we're alive, we owe it to our children and our grandchildren to at least step up and try to stop this thing from coming in.
Amen to that.
Do you see a revolution, another revolution or another civil war in the near future that is going to upset our republic even more than it's already upset it?
Unfortunately, no, because the younger generation, they don't have the backbone nor they don't have the mindset that required even to achieve that. They're going to lay down to whatever tyrannical government comes to power. And in a way, you can't even fault them because they've been conditioned through education and through the media to think that way. I mean, if you look at a lot of the policies that will bring in a tyrannical government, people under 35 basically support that. So that's why I'm saying this is inevitable. This isn't a matter of us turning things around or restoring the republic. That's a fantasy that will never happen. We're talking about keeping this country from going off the cliff. So as long as we're alive, this generation that's alive now, that's above the age of 30, we're the last generation left that's going to stop this thing. Once we're out the way, then it's game over. Then they'll have the tyrannical government.
Okay, we've got another caller on the line that we've got to get to. We have 13 minutes left in the show, so we're going to get to this private caller right now and let him have a statement in on that.
Hello, good evening.
Private caller, you're unmuted.
The government wants us all to stay home. That's fine. I'll just stay home and do cock push-ups on Jamie.
All right. Get rid of him. Dump him.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment before we call it a night?
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I know. It's a good conversation, and I agree with most everything that everyone said. But this may be a wake-up call for all of us too. I feel, and I hear distress in the female's voice and the Florida caller's voice, and it's only been a week or two. I think what we need to do with this wake-up call is learn how to fend for ourselves. Leave mommy home. Leave daddy home. Raise the children the way they're supposed to be raised and teach them right. Maybe some of them won't be running around with a 30-06 in their hand or something, shooting up churches. Learn how to prepare. Learn how to cook food. Learn how to garden. Teach these people that we don't need them. Republicans or Democrats, they're both the same. If their mouths are moving, they're lying. What we need to do is we need to be a people first. And like I said before, half of the people today don't even know what's going on at all, and they don't care. But we need to be able to fend for ourselves and show this government that we don't need them, and it's time to change. I yield.
All right, thank you. That's appreciated.
I definitely agree with that.
No difference. I mean, how can you say that?
All right, somebody's got some background noise there.
No,
Dr.
I just
Joe,
posed a question to the previous caller. When you said there's no difference between the Democrats and Republicans, to me that's just, I don't understand. What have you been watching? This is not the Democratic Party of 10 years ago. This new Democratic Party is completely different than anything we've seen. They are clearly far left, socialists, neo-Marxists, whatever you want to call them, and their agenda is to change our country completely, including our Constitution, and to act as if there's no.
All right. Now 612, we'll do closing thoughts. So 970, go ahead. You want to do something real quick? Go ahead. He's saying that they're both, they're different. So 970, go ahead.
Thank you, Joe. This has been an interesting conversation, and I think it illustrates a couple of very important points. Our founding fathers clearly emphasized that this form of government, our Constitution that we hold so dear, is for a moral and just people. When we have open borders and we don't assimilate the immigrants coming into our country, and they don't know how to live in any other society other than where they came from, then it's only natural that they want to make this place that they now call home what they're comfortable with, which is where they came from, which is not typically a moral and just society. And so we have watered down our moral compass to the masses, and now we find ourselves in a state of confusion because these people have a constitutional voting right once they are assimilated into our society. And so this is a nefarious problem that has been brought upon us by those that would like to see our country taken down. And in closing, I just want to state that the Constitution and our Bill of Rights, as has been clearly illustrated on this call, is our covering, our protection. That's the Bill of Rights. And as long as we as a society stay within those confines, we have a document and a rule of law that will provide liberty and justice for all. But once we get outside of that, now we find it's everybody for himself and the devil take the hindermost. And that's why I am well armed and prepared to defend my home and my community. Thank you, sir.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Is there a political party in America that's against the Bill of Rights and the Constitution? Honestly, sir, come on.
The Democratic Party, yeah. They sure as heck are. I mean, you go listen to AOC and that Omar up there, they hate the Constitution. They even openly state it many times. And
they're both against it.
Yeah.
No, they're not both against it. I keep hearing this argument from people. This is not – the Republicans and Democrats are not the same. I know the Republicans are not perfect, but the Democrats would lead to the destruction of this country. For you
so
to
we're making an absolute
shows,
statement, and we can't do that. But mostly they are all the same because, as the other caller said, the Republicans did something with the Second Amendment in 1968, so they're just as bad as the Democrats are because it shall not be infringed, but yet they will infringe it. They need to go.
Okay, so you think, if the Democrats take over in November, you think everything will be the same, status quo. It won't be any different than if we had the White House with Trump and the Republicans had the House and the Senate. You honestly think that?
I agree with what you're saying, that the Democrats are the worst-case scenario right now, but they're both bad. They both need to go.
They're not going to. How are they going to go, sir? Come on. I'm talking realistic stuff here, okay? I understand the ideal scenario, but the ideal scenario is not going to happen. The Republicans and Democrats are not going to go anywhere. People have been saying that for 50 years, talking about we need to get rid of the two-party system. It's never going to change.
I didn't say get rid of the two-party system. We've got to get rid of. We got to get rid of these people that aren't on our side.
And how would you go about doing that?
Don't vote, for starters.
Oh, so I'm assuming you're a conservative, right? You believe in the Constitution, limited government, correct?
I believe in the Constitution. I don't vote. I would never vote.
So when someone like you doesn't
vote, corporate citizen.
When someone like you doesn't vote, then you have ignorant people in this country who are on board with the leftist agenda, who don't understand the Constitution, and all they want are freebies. When you don't vote, their vote overtakes yours. And that's one more step closer to us losing the Constitution. You do realize that, right?
Well, I understand what you're saying.
So I'm saying,
but I won't argue with you.
I'll
just sit home here for the next 6 months and weather the storm. The mortgage is paid. I can cook all the food I want. I prepared for this. Have you?
Yes, we're talking about our responsibility as a country going forward. If you want to be a man to yourself and just ignore the country and say the heck with our children and our grandchildren, then by all means, sit back, don't vote, let the Democrats come to power and enjoy what happens. I'm talking about our responsibility and our duty to our country to protect our country.
If your vote really matters, Hillary will be president.
Okay, I have one more caller. I have a private caller to bring in. Let him interject if he's got anything to say here. Private caller, you are unmuted.
Okay, I appreciate you unmuting me. I'm the man that quoted the phrase, God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And, John, what you are saying is an abomination of what the government. There's no way that you believe what you're talking about here, John. No way, no, sir. John, do you honestly believe what you're just saying?
Who's he talking to?
I think this guy's trolling us.
Who are we talking about here?
Talking about me?
I think you might be in the wrong room.
No, I'm talking about John. Yeah, John. Yes. What you're talking about? The mortgage is paid. What's that supposed to mean?
It means that Americans can't fend for themselves. They want to go to the bank and take out a mortgage, give the bank a mortgage that they can't pay. To have mommy and daddy working 24 hours a day and the kids out shooting up the cars in the streets, and there's nobody home to take care of what needs to be taken care of. They can't cook, they can't clean. They're scared to death to leave the house today because Papa John's, you can't sit down. They won't deliver because they can't cook anything and they have nothing saved. That's what I'm trying to say.
You can't be serious, right? You think that's the majority of Americans like that?
I don't know if it's the majority in America. I'm talking about me, and I'm telling you what I think would make America better again.
Okay, look, it's like my good friend Joey Gibson Jr. II said one time about you're repeating the same thing. You're pushing your agenda, which is pedophilia. It's bullshit, man.
God, here we go.
You fucking motherfucker, DCQ, bitch, what's up?
Hey,
Willie, where you at, motherfuckers? Yeah!
Oh, Lord. Why is he not
another
muted?
back crap crazy?
Am I still in
That's America, folks. Yeah, that's America, folks.
Yes,
Okay,
there is. There's one that will not survive.
Okay? We got 4 minutes here. Adam, Joe, you got any closing thoughts here?
I'll let Adam take it from here. Go ahead, Adam.
It's amusing the way people go. Rihanna, did you want to speak real quick?
Actually, yes, I do. I did want to say, some of us, instead of sitting in our houses, there are people that need help, and I think, I've heard God help those who help themselves. I don't really believe that, but if, there's people that's willing to stand with you and not just let you do stuff for them, there are people that need help. Then I do have to say, somebody said on the news about people forgetting about the children in foster care and group homes. It's like they're just kind of totally lost and don't have any rights to say anything or where they want to be or where they should be. I think that's definitely something a lot of us should think about. But, the others, if they really need it,
Yes, I think we should definitely be a lot less selfish in a lot of these things when we're considering what people are going through out here, and a lot of people didn't prepare because a lot of people I know didn't think that what we were seeing would ever happen in our lifetime. And I'm dealing with a lot of that within my own family, and I'm having to teach them and explain to them how to now at least try to prepare for what's coming. The whole Republican-Democrat thing, I'm all about the ending of the two-party system because that the lesser of two evils is just going to keep getting us more evil. That's not going to pan out. That's definitely going to lead to the end of life as we know it. You're just continuing a descent into evil, either faster or slower. So I don't endorse the Republican Party. I don't endorse the Democrats by far. I do tend to vote Republican just out of sheer principle and the same thing he was talking about. If we don't, we're going to be a lot worse off. But that's about as far as I would take that. I'll yield from there.
I agree with you, sir.
90
If
seconds
you go to the Constitution and look at our way our founding fathers set this up, republic means we're all in this together. That's the old American spirit. We're all in this together. The two-party system is a divided system where it pits us against each other as a society.
All right, guys, we're going to get cut off here. This was a great show tonight.
30 seconds, yep.
And just want to thank you guys for participating. And, we need to definitely restore Republicans. So everybody, have a good night, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless. Take care.